It's time to sit back and check out the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your hosts, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Hey, what is going on, good kind people? Covering the latest in wrestling, entertainment, and beyond since 2011. You are checking out episode number 1004 of the RCWR show for this Monday night President's Day holiday of February 20th. 2023. What's good, kind people? Hope y'all had a fantastic weekend. Look, hey, I know NFL, that's pretty much over and done with. If you are a baseball fan, then that is pretty much what you're jumping on right about now. I always lose track of hockey season and all that other stuff, but I know XFL had made its return over the weekend. Totally threw me off guard, by the way, because it's weird. I watch USA programming, definitely on Monday nights. And usually if I'm in front of the TV on a Tuesday night or Friday night early enough, I'll tune in and maybe check out the last couple of minutes of NXT or SmackDown. Otherwise, I just catch certain clips online and everything. But to my point, with the other stations that I check out, to see that there was no plugging whatsoever of the XFL games, that's how I got thrown off. I did not know about the return of the XFL games until I was at work Saturday. What was it? I believe it was Saturday, early Saturday afternoon. And somehow, I was on my Twitter feed and I saw people just XFL, and it was starting to trend, it looked like. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And shout out to my buddy Julian Cannon. I'm like, wait, XFL is back? He's like, yeah, dog, it's back. This is opening weekend. I'm like, oh, snap. So I actually had my girl record all the games. I have not watched them all yet because I've been behind catching up on some other stuff. I did see the NBA All-Star Weekend, and look, I hate to sound like an old man yelling into the clouds and everything, but man, the NBA All-Star Weekend, it is just not what it used to be. Oh my God, I'm not feeling it. I am not feeling it. You just can't help but wonder, is there anything that Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner in the league, can do to make it worthwhile checking out? Because I'll tell you a large part of the problem right now, which is the courts. They are much bigger, okay, than in the previous years and all that, right? I mean, they're huge. And then there's little defense that is involved whatsoever. Combine all of that with the fact that today's NBA players, these guys can make their shots from so far away. Majority of them don't need to go into the paint to get their points, like a Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, Karl Malone. You know, nobody is really, you feel where I'm coming from? Like a Shaq. Like, it's weird what's going on with today's games, and then just the hybrid that's going on with the three-point play. I mean, here's the three-point line, but now people are able to get their 3 points on a consistent basis 4, 5, 6, 7 feet, 8, 9, 10 feet away from the official three-point line. One of the things I personally would love to see happen is just for the All-Star Weekend game itself, eliminate the three-point play. Just eliminate it altogether. Even if you were to try to go for that hokey dokey trick shot from so far away, it's only going to count as 2 points. I personally would love to see something like that maybe go down. And then I think when you just look at the ridiculous amount of points that has to be scored, I think that's great how they add up the points in the first 2 quarters and then pretty much halftime, come back, reset, new set of points. But then when you go into the fourth quarter, they pretty much bring up all the points that were scored from the previous quarters, round it off, combine it with whatever the other team had scored, and then that's how they're able to figure out what the magic number is for the winning team and everything. I think that's nice, but I think going forward at this point, you just got to go on ahead, bunk ball 182 magic number, 200, just, first team to score 100 points. That's it. It's over and done with. Utah, look, I got no beef against Utah whatsoever, but the other thing that I think really you have to take into equation as well is the fact that look at where the NBA All-Star was this weekend. They were out in Utah. And look, I have no problem with the music selection and choice that they had went with for the halftime show, those that they had grabbed. But my whole thing is, I may be able to easily relate to this music. Other people of the reggae, hip-hop, rap community may be able to relate to this music, but your host for the NBA All-Star Weekend in Utah, I don't really think they have quite the keen ear, acceptable ear at that, for what they're hearing and everything. Yeah, it was just overall that whole weekend, it was just a big old miss. From the Rising Star to the Celebrity Game, I didn't care about any of that stuff. I didn't even care about the Slam Dunk Challenge and all that. And look, the NBA All-Star Game itself, once Giannis was done and then LeBron was pretty much done, you're going, yeah, you know what? There's definitely no reason to watch this whatsoever. I can change the channel at this point. I know that's what I and a bunch of other people did coming out of halftime and everything. So there's a lot that they got to do, though. There's a lot they got to do to clean that up. I miss the competitive spirit that used to exist when it came to All-Star Weekend. And, on a more serious tip, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, what's going on with bringing the All-Star Weekend back here to the DMV? You got to look into that already, man. I mean, it's been many, 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 many years since we last hosted All-Star Weekend. If I remember right, I believe you got to go as far back as somewhere between 2003 to 2005, definitely in between that time frame was when we had NBA All-Star Weekend last, and we haven't had it since. Matter of fact, I want to just look that up right now just to make sure that I'm remembering it right. I'll just say NBA All-Star Weekend DC, and let's see when it comes up here. Hang on, NBA All-Star Weekend, I'll say Washington, D.C. Let me see when that was. Yeah, that should have been like 2000, somewhere between 2003 to 2005 is what I'm thinking. And it's not coming up, surprisingly. And I'm doing a Bing search, and it's not popping up. It looks like it's just still being dominated by what all had went down over the weekend. Let's ask Google real quick. Hey, Google, when was NBA All-Star Weekend in Washington, D.C.?
Sorry, I don't have any information about that.
All of a sudden, Google does not have any information on that. That is just the most stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But I'll keep it moving along. If you guys want to give me the official date for that, go ahead. Because I think that's fun trivia. Because like when you just stop and think about, and I'm sure for you guys, maybe some of you live in DC or you don't. I'm sure for some of you guys, you're probably echoing the same sentiments as I am. But you're saying, damn, when's the last time, insert city, state, hosted the NBA All-Star Weekend. What the hell, right? So, but, fun weekend. We had the pay-per-view, the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, premium live event that went down. We did do a live post-show after that. Appreciate you guys that has sounded off about that. One more time, the final polling results for that event, the way it's looking right now, is as follows. If you're keeping track here, I told you guys you could vote right on up until we were getting ready to do tonight's show and everything. And the way it's looking right now, I'm looking at Facebook for starters. By the way, I am asking you guys, what did you think about tonight's WWE Raw? So if you got Facebook, the Twitter, you've got access to the communities tab on YouTube, go vote. Easy to find. Facebook, Elimination Chamber, 25% of you are staying in the middle. Top dog, 75% of you are giving it a thumbs up. Meanwhile, over to YouTube, Communities tab, I'm seeing that 14% of you are staying in the middle, while 18% of you are giving it a thumbs down. Top dog right now, 68%. Thumbs up. And for Twitter, at the RCWR show, Twitter, this might be tricky. I'm letting you guys know this right now. I really haven't put that many tweets out today, so it should be easy for me to find. But let's see. Yes, I was able to find it with ease. 23% of you are giving Elimination Chamber a thumbs down. 28% of you, meanwhile, are giving it a staying in the middle, while 48% are saying thumbs up for the event overall. Had about 48 hours to sleep on it. I know as far as the number rating scale, the grade level scale that I gave the pay-per-view event, I pretty much was looking at a C plus to maybe a B minus, and then number scale wise, I was looking at it from I believe I had said a 6.5, maybe almost a 7. Definitely couldn't go any higher, couldn't go any lower. It was interesting hearing some of my colleagues give it a much higher rating, and I'm literally saying to myself, we must have been watching an entirely different pay-per-view. I must need some new glasses, because people were giving it A plus, A minus, 9 out of 10. Some even jumped out there and said 10 out of 10. Yeah, I must need new glasses, because, wow, we obviously had watched something entirely different. But now that, shout out to D-Money. D-Money said that it was actually in 2001 was the DC NBA All-Star Weekend. So I wonder why I am picturing later than that. I wonder why I'm thinking 2003 to 2005. But then again, when you're going back to that particular period in time, I can tell you honestly, no bull, and I've alluded to it a couple of times here on the show, but from 1998 to 2004, my life was it was on a weird roller coaster. Those that personally know me know exactly what I'm talking about. But then even at that, there was only but so much that I was willing to divulge. But there was a lot going on. So as far as like all things pop culture and all that during that time frame, yeah, my memory definitely spotty. So if D-Money is saying it was in 2001, the NBA All-Star Weekend, I trust him on that, because, and that would be more accurate, because it kind of feels to me, and this kind of matches up to it. I remember something involving Michael Jordan, that respected season, and then going into that All-Star, especially if you were going into the All-Star Weekend in DC here, there was just so much energy, just great energy that was in the air, combined with the fact that, we had Michael Jordan and everything. It was crazy. It was crazy what was going on just that whole weekend and everything. I did see Ant-Man, the new movie. I'm not going to do a full blown out review, So this ain't gonna be no long-winded 10-minute interview review for the movie. But if you guys are curious about Ant-Man, you have not seen it yet, I'm not gonna spoil anything, so you don't have to worry about spoilers. Letting you know that right now, so you can listen to this freely. No spoilers are being put out there. But if you were to ask me if this is an Ant-Man movie you should go out of your way to check out in the theaters, I would say it depends. And I know that's not really a good answer, but just stay with me for a quick second. You got to look at this a couple of ways. Okay, so if you are a fan of all things Marvel Cinema Universe, then you know what? Your mind's already made up. It's just a matter of when are you going to see it. But you know you're going to see it, okay? You're not the audience that I'm talking to right now, okay? So you guys are good. Now, if you really had enjoyed the arc that was going on with Paul Rudd as Scott Lang in the first two Ant-Man movies, and you like the whole, hey, here's this guy that's a former convict and he's trying to pick up the pieces with his life. He's trying to reestablish that connection with his daughter. He's trying to patch things up with his ex-wife so that at least they can be on a civil, on civil terms and having shared custody with their daughter and all that. If you like all those little nuances that goes into that human factor, everyday life, while on top of that you got this guy who is just an ordinary man and he's able to do incredible things with that suit that he has and everything. Well, the first two Ant-Man movies, which did a really good job in documenting all of what I just said, you're gonna find that to be a bit abandoned by this new Ant-Man movie, this third one. And you may kind of frown upon that. Now, there are going to be those of you that have seen the first two Ant-Man movies, and you're like, okay, I'm getting ready to see Ant-Man 3. You're going to find that the way Ant-Man 3 was set up, everything that played out over the first two Ant-Man movies gets a proper bookending for this third one. So you'll be happy with that. You'll definitely be happy with that. For me, as far as acting goes, I gotta tell you, acting and just, CGI, all that stuff. CGI, very, very obvious. Very, very obvious, which might irritate a few people from the first two Ant-Man movies. At least you could say with the graphics that was done in the other two, at least you can say it was... okay, it was kind of innovative, the way that they did some of these fight scenes, the way they were miniaturizing and blowing stuff up, right? Okay. But then, here's the thing. Where it may fall a little bit short with some people is the runtime dialogue / scenes between Paul Rudd as Scott Lang Ant-Man and Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. I mean, when you add it all up, you're lucky if it's even 5 minutes. And we're talking about a movie that runs an hour and 53 minutes. And yet somehow these guys, when you just add up all their time together on screen, talking with one another and all that other stuff, you're lucky if it's about 5 minutes. What really, in my eyes, what really carried this movie was Jonathan Majors, who I feel is going to be a force to reckon with for many, many years to come. Many years to come. And Michelle Pfeiffer, believe it or not. Michelle Pfeiffer and Jonathan Majors, they did a phenomenal job and really, really carrying this movie. Great performances. A lot of screen time with the two of them as far as interacting and all that. It's really badass how they have Michelle Pfeiffer's character. Remember, we pretty much were introduced to her from the last Ant-Man movie. So it's nice that her character got flushed out even more and everything. Kang the Conqueror, from what you had saw of him, season finale of season 1's Loki,
okay, now here it is. You get him, he's arrived, and he is a baddie. He is definitely a baddie. So keeping all of that in mind, my grading scale for the movie, I'm looking at it as a 7 out of 10. I can't go higher. I cannot go any lower. The one thing that I will definitely tell you is that the movie 10 times better than Thor Love and Thunder. I am a huge Thor fan. Every month I get my Thor comic series that's written by Donny Cates, drawn by Nick Klein. Every month I get my newest issue, okay? I've been with that series since the very first one that had dropped. Love that series. And I remember being a Thor fan when I was a little kid. So trust me, for me to say Thor Love and Thunder, that was pretty bad compared to this new Ant-Man that dropped, right? So hopefully that information helps. If it doesn't, I know I'm going to be in the process this week of doing a write-up review for 401mania.com. You'll be able to find it out. Just stay connected on social media. You'll know when it goes live, and you can check out a more in-depth review. But hopefully that'll really help you. Now, if you have a significant other that is a bit behind on the Marvel Cinema Universe, and you're trying to figure out, what can I get away without showing them and still be able to check out the new Ant-Man movie, I would say that at the minimum, you would have had to seen the last Doctor Strange movie, the last Spider-Man movie. Loki is optional, but I would highly recommend watching the season finale of Loki, where Jonathan Majors as Kane / He Who Remains, appears. In order to have full context, you don't need to do Eternals, and you don't need to do Shang-Chi. What's the other one? You don't even need to do the Kamala Khan series, Miss Marvel. You don't even need to do that. Just bare minimum, go with the ones that I had just mentioned, and you'll actually be fine. All right, hopefully that helps you guys. D-Money, no. I have not watched that series, The Last of Us. I believe that is on HBO. I don't have HBO money. Okay, I don't have HBO money. I'm on a tight budget as it is. I run very thin. So between my Paramount Plus, let me see, Amazon Prime, Peacock, and I'm trying to think, my Spotify. Who else? GoDaddy. there's like a couple other joints. It's like, yeah, I'm tapped out. I'm tapped out after that, right? And that's with me choosing wisely. That's the thing. That's with me choosing wisely. There are so many apps that's out there. It's not even funny, man. Nowadays it's just kind of one of those things where you go, okay, well, for that almighty dollar that you're going to be coughing up on a monthly basis, who really is giving you the biggest bang for your buck? And I gotta tell you, it's nice having the option to hop on Peacock. Heaven forbid I miss an episode of one of the new Law and Orders that I forgot to record. It's nice to be able to go on Peacock the next day, 2 days later, watch the newest episode. It was definitely nice being able to watch Best Man, the final chapters with the wifey. That was great quality time right there. But other than that, Peacock isn't really serving its, right? So, yeah. Amazon Prime, I am always going down a rabbit hole of movies, TV shows. I don't have an issue with that whatsoever. Paramount Plus, same deal. I'm constantly going down a rabbit hole of old school stuff, new stuff. Matter of fact, I remember I just told you guys last week I had finally started watching the new episodes of Beavis and Butthead, and my judge of them. They do a fantastic job just picking up right where they left off with the original series and all that. I had watched that. I watched the new Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, which was hilarious. I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed that a little bit more than Beavis and Butthead Do America. That's just my personal preference, though. Hey, heads up. I'm mentioning this at the top of the show. Since I'm still coming from out of the weekend, I had a fantastic sit-down interview. You probably saw me promoting this on social media over the weekend. I had a great sit-down interview / conversation, because you know the way I like to do these interviews, I like to do them in a conversation type of format. Great segue to Ariel Helwani too. Stay with me. Wild Women of Wrestling's own Foxxy Fierce, who's actually from right here in the Washington, D.C. area. And we chatted for about 20 minutes. It was really, really good. I made sure that before I got off the air with them and everything, because we pretty much had pre-recorded this and everything. And I made sure that before, you know, we all had departed, that they were good. Them and, you know, publicists and all that they were good with the interview, because my whole thing is, all right, if it's not going to make it past their ears, like, then we're not going to release it and everything. That's just the standard that I have for anything that I put out, right? If I feel like it's not going to get past my ears, if it's not going to get past Tam's ears, or then it has no business being released. But they were very, very pleased with the interview. So much so, it was a couple of minutes after, you know, I had said goodbye and everything, and I was hit up and I was told, hey, how soon are you going to have this published and everything? Because, you know, we definitely want to heavily promote this and everything. And I told him, you know, let me, you know, do my thing. Let me clean it up, edit it, and, you know, get a transcript for it ready to go and everything. And hopefully we should have everything to go by Wednesday and everything. So we're already talking about doing even more interviews, you know, anytime that they're ready to rock and roll and everything. So nice, very, very nice, very nice. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. It was interesting because I got a bunch of butterflies as I was going into the interview. And I guess that's a good thing that I still have the butterflies and all that, because when I don't feel that in my stomach anymore, those knots, you know, the anticipation, you know, the hype, you know, that fun type of anxiety, if I'm not experiencing any of those, that kind of says to me the thrill is gone and everything. So look out for that. My goal is to have that be available for you guys to check out. This, I'm going to try to see if I can have it be put out sometime Tuesday afternoon, highly unlikely at this point, highly unlikely, or Wednesday, first thing Wednesday, I'll have it go live for you all. So just stay connected on social media, sign up for notifications and all that, and you guys will know what's going down and everything, right? So I was talking about Ariel Helwani. You know, of course, one of the biggest things that came out of the weekend was Ariel Helwani, you know, MMA podcast, MMA enthusiast, does a phenomenal job in covering the MMA. Also happens to talk about wrestling and everything, as you know, he's a huge wrestling fan. So apparently he was minding his own goddamn business going into Elimination Chamber weekend, as he was at a SmackDown show and he was giving some love and everything. He had a microphone, all that good stuff. And if I remember correctly, I'll have to rely on you guys, I believe Ariel Helwani had also did the Elimination Chamber kickoff. Okay, so he was getting a lot of love. And Tony Khan, AEW founder and president, this did not sit well with him, as he went on social media and was taking some very personal shots at Ariel. Now, full context, of course, this all goes back to the interview that Ariel had did with Tony Khan from October of last year. And anybody that took the time out to watch that interview, I know I watched it, because Ariel is just, he's very good at what he does as far as sitting down. I love that conversational style type of interviewing. I really do. I'm a big fan of it. I'm not going to sit here and say to you guys, I was among the first as far as, you know, those that were involved in doing wrestling podcasts. But what I will say is that before wrestling podcasts had really just blew up to every Tom, Dick, and Harry every single day of every single week now decides they want to start up a podcast and everything. Remember, I've been at this for over 11 years now, okay? And I can honestly tell you that rewinding it back to the early days, you know, it was just question, question, right, question. You know, there was no interacting with the, you know, and I'm not going to say I was the first. You're never going to hear me say that. But what I will say is I was definitely among the first doing a wrestling podcast that said, you know what, why not do this more in a conversational style? Why does it have to feel like a robot at the other end and just question? There's a way to, you know, do this in a way where it doesn't sound so one-sided. You know, yeah, obviously the last thing that you want to do is go into an interview and you're saying a lot more than the guests, because it is supposed to be about the guests and everything, right? So that's the last thing you want to do, is be in that type of a delegate position and all that. I say all of that because Ariel Helwani is very good at what he does as a conversationalist interviewer. He's done some really good ones. But the one with Tony Khan, for me personally, was so goddamn nerve-wracking, because it just felt like Ariel was pulling teeth. And as we would later learn, per Ariel, he's going, hey, I didn't have the PR people say anything to me as far as, don't ask this question, don't bring this up, hey, whatever you do, dodge this one. Everything was just, it was literally anything goes. And all that was with Ariel that he got from TK. It was like watching a 45-minute infomercial promoting AEW programming. That's basically what it was all about. So for Ariel to jump out there and say it was one of the worst interviews that he's ever conducted, and, you know, in retrospect, I don't really know if that was really a smart move to do. And not for nothing, but going up to that point, Ariel did do a couple of interviews with AEW talents here and there, and apparently it was Tony Khan's people that reached out to Ariel. They wanted to do this. Ariel did not reach out to them. They reached out to him. And so, right, you know, but I get how Ariel was feeling. I really do. But the last thing that I've always felt, teach its own, but I always felt that even when an interview does not go the way you're expecting it to go, if you just feel like, you know what, this is absolutely one of the worst interviews that I've ever conducted, you know, you don't broadcast it. I've always felt. I've always stuck to my guns on that. And I've always felt that, okay, when you get a case like that where you're dealing with a really bad guest and the interview is just, it's really bad, then, you know what, do what you can. See if you can somehow clean it up to the point that it is watchable, it is listenable, and keep it moving along. Don't ever work with that guest again. Don't ever have them appear on your show again. Just keep it moving along. Just quietly, internally. Handle it internally. So I wasn't quite a fan of Ariel when he took the shots that he did. And so I really hope that Ariel understands where the sarcasm, where the venom comes into play for Tony Khan when he comes at Ariel over the weekend, seeing him appear on WWE programming and everything, you know, and says to him straight up in a tweet, you're a fraud, Ariel Helwani. You're as legitimate of a reporter as Tony Schiavone. This was, unless you find me something else sprinkled elsewhere, this was the first time that I'm aware of where Tony Khan officially tried to checkmate Ariel. I don't remember Tony Khan jumping out there days after the Ariel Helwani interview and saying, look, I'm sorry that he feels that way, but, you know, this was the case. What was he expecting me to say? Yada. I didn't really get that. I don't remember seeing the Sean Ross Sapps, the Meltzers. I don't really remember seeing all those guys jump out there and say, here's Tony Khan following up from that interview with Ariel, right? But, again, full context. That's why I went as long as I did. Full context I'm giving you guys here. So for Tony Khan to say that to Ariel, you're going, oh, okay, obviously we know where this is going and everything. Okay. Ariel responds back, thanks for watching, old friend. Can't wait for our next chat. Also, don't listen to the snowman, Schiavone. You're a legend in my book. So there's a dig that's being taken at Tony Khan, snowman, basically saying you're a cokehead, right? You freebasing, what, you know, whatever you want to, right? He's like, okay. So Ariel expanded on this thought a lot more on his MMA Hour show, saying, and I quote, I'm not a wrestling journalist. I never called myself a wrestling journalist. For the record, I don't consider Ariel a wrestling journalist. I've always looked at him nothing more when he talks about wrestling, when he interviews those that are in the wrestling industry. I've always looked at him as someone that is a fan of the industry, that has a deep, loyal following, and knows how to brilliantly capitalize on tapping into those that's part of the wrestling industry to have them come onto the show. You know, it's a great, you know, honestly, it's like peanut butter and jelly when you think about professional wrestling, sports entertainment, MMA. It just all goes in one hand and everything. He goes on to say, I don't report on wrestling like others do. I do interview wrestlers. I enjoy it tremendously. I try to think and act like a journalist when I do these interviews, but I am not a wrestling journalist. I obviously have relationships with people there because of Nick Khan, the CEO, was my agent. I can't hide from that. I wasn't sure what direction I should go. What should I do? I came to the conclusion that in life, especially post ESPN, I just want to have fun. I want to do fun things. I came to the conclusion around December. If any opportunity comes up again, I'm going to take it. It's always been a bucket list thing for me. I made a promise to myself without seeking it. If this opportunity came up again, I would seriously consider it because life is too short. I want to have fun. I'm not a wrestling journalist. I think people are confusing me for my role in MMA. It's not the same. All things aren't equal. So he would go on to talk about doing voiceover for the Elimination Chamber video package, which I missed sadly because I don't know what was going on, but I had missed that. So I to the point, I still haven't watched the replay yet, just to kind of watch the first 20 minutes there and everything. But to that he said, I said yes, and I said this time I'm going to get paid. The reason I didn't say it beforehand, I didn't want to ruin the surprise. I wanted it to be organic and fun. As of right now, I haven't been paid, but you get the point. I agreed to it. Unless they decide to not pay me because I sucked, which is fine, I might have been fired. And later on, he goes on to say, I don't care what anyone says about Triple H. He's a mensch, salt of the earth guy, and very welcoming and kind to me. So that was, I mean, he had a lot more to say in regards to the whole situation and all that, but just the fact that Tony Khan, there was one part that definitely had caught my eyes, and that was the fact that Ariel mentioned how he had to do a triple take when he saw the comments that was coming in there, the tweets from Tony Khan, because he thought for sure it was a spam account. He thought for sure that maybe it was a troll account. He didn't think this was actually coming from Tony Khan. And I got to tell you guys, Tony Khan has done a better job at whatever beefs, issues that's going on between him and other wrestling promotions, or you name it. He's done a better job of internally just keeping it within and not being so quick to go to social media, or next time he's on Busted Open Radio or whoever is interviewing him, he's pretty much just been sticking to the script, promoting his things, choosing the right time and place when he wants to break some AEW or ROH news. So I got to tell you, when I initially had heard this from Tony Khan, I just couldn't help but shake my head and go, what is going on with this man? What is this man thinking about here? Because this makes no fucking sense whatsoever. And then I see how David Spick and Span, as I like to call him, I see how he tried to throw his 2 cents in there, and Ariel owned his ass real quick. So much so had that guy, David Spick and Span, running for the hills, putting his account in protected mode so you can no longer read his tweets and all that. Here's a guy who calls himself a wrestling journalist, and yet he is out there on social media. You can go and you can see the screenshots for yourself. He's out there on social media when all of this is going on between Ariel and Tony Khan, quoting Ariel and, you lying piece of shit. And then when Tony Khan, he feels is saying something that's really good, quoting him and saying, that's a good one, that's how you get his ass, and all this other stuff. And, you're going, wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. Emotional context here. You're taking this way too personal. People look to you because you are supposed to provide some type of unbiased opinion, when it comes to covering all of these things that's coming about and all that. And to essentially see that you are basically choosing a side while alienating the other, that's not cool whatsoever. That's not cool whatsoever. And it honestly, it's a black eye for those that's actually doing it right. They're studying the craft and all of that. For the ones that's doing it right, it's bad for them, right? So for Ariel to, some people might have looked at what he was saying about David as savage and all of that. I can only tell you from my personal experience, and I've mentioned it here on the show, just off and on, very, very rare, but I've mentioned it here on the show off and on over the past couple of years, which is, I was in a position where one time I had did a wrestling post show. It was a live webcast post show. I had did it with Raj Giri. At that time, he was the owner of Wrestling Inc. I know since then he has sold his shares. He sold the site, so he's no longer, to my knowledge, unless something different has occurred, he no longer has anything to do with the site. But I remember there was a post show that Raj Giri had asked me, hey, if you are going to be around, would you like to come on board, do maybe a little test run? And I said, yeah, sure, let's go ahead, let's do it. And I was joined along with David Bixenspan. And dude gave me the douchebag chill vibes way back then. I remember how, in between I was trying to, break the ice, whatever level of anxiety, anticipation, or, whatever might have been going on, with us all right before we were getting ready to do this post show, and that's just how I am by nature. I'm just one of those type of people. If I'm in a room whether it's remotely or physically, right? You're in front of my face, we're in a room, and it's kind of quiet, you know, not really. I'll be that person that will start cracking some jokes, try to, you know, liven up the room and everything. And I remember the guy just came off like an asshole, like a straight up asshole. And I just remember at first impressions for me, usually when I've had my friends and family say this about me, which is I am a scary judge of character, because however I dub a person after I first meet them, 99.9% of the time I am spot on with my take on them. And my God, this was probably maybe, for those of you that might be curious, this was probably maybe about 5-6 years ago that I did this with them. So that was the vibe that guy gave me, right down to the point I couldn't believe that he was involved in the business as far as reporting it. I couldn't believe he was involved from that standpoint, because it was just like, ooh, right? And so to hear that he got in the middle of all of this, I'm not surprised. That's the type of person that he is, and he's always been the type of person who, when he can't take the heat, he's always been that person. You can bank on it and win money easily. He's always been that person where when it gets too hot, he backs out. He doesn't stand his ground. And, you know, and I've always said to you guys on this show for years, when it comes to tweeting, if you put something out there, you know my golden rule, but for you newer listeners, the golden rule is you're getting ready to put a tweet out there. Take a second, reread it. It's all good. That's what you're going to put out there. Whatever is going to come, possibly negatively, from that tweet, own it. Just own it. That's how you feel. That's how you feel. And to see that it got too hot for him, as always, and him retreating, doesn't surprise me to hear any of that whatsoever. Does not surprise me to hear any of that whatsoever. So, you know, but TK, I was greatly disappointed, right down to the fact that I put a tweet out in regards to this, and it's been picking up a little bit of steam. And I said, if you're an AEW fan, I don't see how you can stand up for Tony Khan on this one. To go out of his way and semi-attacking Ariel over the weekend, Tony Khan made himself look like a crying chump. And he really did when you stop and think about it, because look at how when Ariel, go back to that interview, and Ariel, you know, very politely, kind of professionally, hey, I thought maybe I was on your crap list or whatever. I'm going back to that time I did that interview with MJF, and I know that had ruffled your feathers the wrong way and everything. I remember I tried to get word out to you, and it kind of felt as though you were avoiding me. And just look at how Tony Khan was just go back and look at that. Go back and look at that. And then how Tony Khan tried to, you know, oh, well, you know, come to a Jags game and you'll be my guest, or, you know, hey, come do this, and, you know, come to an AEW show and you'll be my guest. And, you know, you're going, okay, this is all just fluff, right? That, you know, just fluff. This is all it is right here. You know, you get the game that's being played. Okay, cool, whatever, right? And so you can't help but wonder, what is Tony Khan more upset about? Is he more upset over the fact that when he put out those invitations to Ariel, that Ariel did not take him up on it, and instead he took up the invitation by WWE? Is that essentially what is hurting, because he didn't get the first dance? You know, or is this a case where deep down inside there was a part of him that had some type of respect towards Ariel and you know, really thought highly of him, and just to see him do business with the enemy, especially after everything that had happened with his interview with Ariel? Well, God damn it, that was just right. It's just one of those things where you're just going, dude, Tony Khan, this man don't owe you jack shit. Nobody does. Nobody owes you jack shit. Okay? I mean, seriously. Seriously. The way this works, when you agree to do an interview, it's a barter system, essentially, okay? You know, hey, I'm going to do this interview. I'm going to come on your show. We're going to talk about XYZ, because the main purpose of me being on this show of yours is to talk about X, Y, and Z. In the process of me talking about X, Y, Z, I am helping you and your show out, your publication out, because I know there are fans of this product that I'm talking about, and your listeners, right? They are fans of this particular product, and yeah, so we're working with one another. We're cross promoting. Okay? Not everybody is going to be bending over on their knees. Oh, it's you. And only you my heart desires. Only you will be able to come through this studio and wet your lips on this microphone. It's only gonna be you. Only you guys, right? No, these people, they don't owe you jack shit. And what I really need for Tony Khan to start doing, he's done he did a better job second half of 2022, I would have to say. But for 2023, I hate continuing to come on here. This guy's a young owner. He needs to learn with the experience, trial and error. I'm getting to a point right now where I'm going, God damn it, this trial and error bullshit. I'm not making an excuse for Tony Khan, but it's just, there's only but so many times that you can go trial and error. Trial and error. I need for this guy, whenever something does not go his way, the proper way, for those of you that's curious, well, what was the right way that he should have handled this with Ariel? What was the right way he should have handled this? Quite simple. You make a mental note, and from a business decision standpoint, internally, you send a memo to those that ain't going to be putting it out there. It's not going to be reported to any wrestling sites, dirt sheets, and all of that. You put an internal memo out there, and you basically say, look, going forward, as far as this Ariel Helwani guy goes, we're cutting him off. We're not giving him any access to any of the AEW talents and you have some type of a meeting. You have some type of a meeting with your roster, and you say, look, going forward, as far as interviews go, the one you cannot do an interview with is, and be like anybody that, fails to comply, you're going to get seriously fined. Plain and simple. You do it just like that, and then you keep it moving along. That's exactly how you do it. Just, everybody's just wrong on this, honestly. Everybody's just wrong on this from so many levels. It fucking sucks when it's all said and done. It just fucking sucks. It's stupid. It is what it is. But that's my 2 cents on that. I see we had a new WWE RAW tonight, and wait, give me a second here. I don't know who this person is, but you've got nothing I'm interested in. So we had a new WWE RAW tonight, and it looks like we have officially created the Austin Theory versus John Cena at WrestleMania official roadmap. And it was interesting seeing a few people go on Twitter and say, well, I guess it makes sense for Edge to take away the United States title there from Austin Theory. Yeah, might as well pull that trigger. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with Theory losing to Edge, right? Because he's going to get John Cena after all. And I'm going, no, you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it. No, my friend, it makes more sense in the world that going into WrestleMania season, you have Theory have that United States Championship. You've already got the man out there bragging about the fact that he beat 4 or 5 other guys at the Elimination Chamber to retain his championship. So you already got the man gloating. Okay? You already got the man gloating. You don't just follow that up and then just, oh, well, now we're going to have him drop it to Edge. No, you know the reason why and why that doesn't make any type of sense whatsoever? Because if you were going to have Austin Theory drop that championship some 24 hours, 48 hours later, then it makes all the sense in the world that you go, well, hell, if this is going to be the case, then why don't we just crown a new U.S. champion here at the pay-per-view? And some could make an argument, hell, if it was going to go down a particular way, Montez Ford, fans would have had no problem seeing Montez Ford walk out of that event as the new United States champion. Okay? So, and the other thing that I felt that between Edge and Finn Balor, I felt like definitively this wasn't over between the two of them. And then after hearing the reports that came out from, I believe it was the good folks over there at Fightful, they were pretty quick to talk about the fact that apparently as early as maybe November, Finn Balor, there's chatter about him going back to the demon gimmick. And you had opposition. And those that were against it, they pretty much were saying, well, with this current arc with Judgment Day, this really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why would he all of a sudden go back to being the demon here? That's not quite, no, right? So I'm glad that they ended up not going with bringing back the demon. I'm glad that they didn't do that because honestly, I think there's time. There's definitely time to go back. And Lord knows, I've been wanting to see Demon Balor back for quite a long time. But against Edge, no. And plus, you hear about that ridiculous record that Demon Balor has and all that. Do you really want to? I don't think so. You don't really want to. You want that to count where it counts the most. Anybody that you talk to, when you look at this Judgment Day stable, everybody's pretty much been saying the same thing. Okay, Rhea Ripley works well in Judgment Day. Dominic Mysterio works very well in Judgment Day. Damian Priest works extremely well in Judgment Day. Finn Balor, something's kind of off with this guy, right? And, when it counts the most, after being on the receiving end of defeat after defeat after defeat so many times, the Judgment Day, you just can't help but if you're the other members of Judgment Day, look at everything that's gone down and say, okay, you know what? Kind of seems as though maybe we need a new change in scenery. Maybe we need a new voice at the helm for this respected stable. I would be more interested in seeing Finn Balor get kicked out of this stable, betrayed by members of his own stable, and essentially coming back as a face Balor. He's been pushed over the edge. This one definitely, it's the icing on the cake. And he essentially goes back to the demon gimmick. But they gotta do the demon gimmick, I feel, in a way, and I've been saying this for years now, they gotta do the demon gimmick in a way where it's kind of like Marvel Comics Sleepwalker. If you've never heard of that series, and you like a little bit of sci-fi suspense, that's an old school comic book from back in the early 90s. Tells the story of this young teenager who's, I think he's in his first year or two in college, and he's living out on his own. And to make ends meet, he becomes a superintendent for this apartment complex that he's staying at. And actually not an apartment complex. It comes off more like a... Seems more like a an apartment townhome, if you will, complex. It's got a few levels to it. But as a result of doing all this work, he's pretty much able to stay there for free, you know, since he's doing manual labor and all that. So somehow he gets hooked up with this alien, okay? I won't put too much more out there, but somehow he hooks up with this alien. And every time Rich Sheridan goes to sleep, this alien that eventually gets dubbed a sleepwalker, you know, he pretty much comes out, you know, he does his thing. And whenever Rick Sheridan wakes up, he has no recollection whatsoever of what this sleepwalker did. And it took many issues to go past until, you know, eventually the sleepwalker decided to leave some type of a message, you know, for Sheridan, letting him know what, you know, what's going on and everything. And yeah, it pretty much just goes from there, right? But just that whole concept, just home in on that key part that I mentioned, how, right, like this whole dream sequence, if you will, that you have this thing that's deep in the subconscious. You don't know anything about it. You're told about some crazy stuff that went down. You don't have any recollection of it whatsoever. You know, this is the first time you're hearing this, so this is news to you. I would like to see them do some type of a unique spin on the demon this go round like that. Or you can also do it in a way where if you maybe want to go the Clark Kent, Superman, Batman, Bruce Wayne route, I mean, you can definitely do that as well. But I like the psychological playing that we're doing with the gimmick. I think WWE, and if anybody that I feel in my heart of hearts could definitely pull it off, Triple H and crew for sure. I definitely feel they can pull that off. So I looked at that whole thing and I said, no, there's no way, no chance, no way, no how Austin Theory is losing that United States Championship to Edge in the main event on Raw. What else you got? And sure enough, that's exactly right on cue. Final moments, Finn Balor coming out there, interfering not once but twice, pretty much setting up Edge to take the A-Town down by Theory. 1, 2, 3, retaining the championship that way. Balor, true to his word from the pay-per-view when he said, post-victory for the Grit couple, we're not done. This isn't over yet. Yeah. So Edge, Balor at WrestleMania, I'm down with that. I'm down with that. But I don't want to see a demon. I definitely do not want to see a demon. Let me talk a little bit about that match, too, between Edge and Theory for a hot minute, because I definitely want to give it its respected props. I thought the young man did good, very good against the veteran there and Edge. He held up extremely well. I love seeing the alley-oops, leapfrogs and all that was coming from Edge. My girl was watching this right along with me, and she's going, damn, that boy can still move. I said, yeah, how about that? Like, he's doing his leapfrogs and all that. Like, man, been practicing. One thing that I thought was kind of noteworthy, I don't know if you all had peeped up on this, but I thought it was interesting that Jessica Carr was not refereeing this match. And if you know anything about Jessica Carr and Edge, they have mutual respect for one another. Edge thinks very highly of her, and she is his go-to and has been his go-to for practically all his matches that's gone down during this WWE return. So I thought it was interesting that she was not involved in this matchup. But I thought the referee that was in there, I thought he did good, knew his spots where he needed to be and all of that good stuff here. But they were having a really good match, was Edge and Austin Theory for sure. I felt personally that the ending really took away, but you just felt in your bones that Balor and Edge, they're not done. You knew there was going to be some type of interference involved in this. And you've honestly just felt for a long time now, the way this was kind of panning out, that Edge and Balor, it feels like this is just leading up to these guys taking this feud and ending it at WrestleMania, and everything. But Theory getting a huge win on a multi-time tag champion, a multi-time world heavyweight champion, a current WWE Hall of Famer, and Edge. Great bragging rights, good stuff to add to the resume there, right? So you have a great performance at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, a great performance against Edge to retain your U.S. title. You're feeling fine on cloud nine. Okay, so great setup to go into WrestleMania season gloating, going on and on about how you are the absolute best United States champion there is, right? Going the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Yeah, we wish that frickin' Bret Hitman Hart can come out there. Hey, oh, you think you're all that, huh? Right? But we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer officially for Austin Theory versus John Cena. To the point, John Cena is set to appear at WWE RAW Live or at the TD Garden. This is going to be Boston, Massachusetts on March 6th. So you know, and look, Theory has already taken his jabs. He did it brilliantly tonight on Monday Night Raw. He's already taken his jabs there at John Cena. So they have been very subtle about this, but you know that is what is going to ultimately go down, and I am totally fine for that. You have Theory. I mean, it just writes itself so beautifully. All the people that he's beaten, he's the greatest United States champion ever. Cue up John Cena to come out there. There you go. It sells itself. But a great main event match between those two men tonight. Definitely got to give them a lot of props. Sami Zayn coming out to kick off Raw. I thought that was a nice touch, especially when you consider the last thing that was said to Sami Zayn on Raw, which was by Cody Rhodes. Remember what Cody had said to Sami? I don't want to see you back here on Monday Night Raw. I would rather see you at WrestleMania. So that was a nice way of Cody essentially saying, look, man, the next time I see you, you need to be the champion, and it needs to be at WrestleMania. And sadly, it didn't go down that way. So I thought it was a nice way, given everything and how Elimination Chamber ended. A great touch. That last burning image, Sami not getting the job done. The burning $1 million question. Man, what's next for Sami here? Where does he go from here? All right, you open up your show with Sami Zayn. Chef's kiss. Great touch. Great touch. Kicking it off with Sami Zayn. And we find out as he calls out Kevin Owens and says to Kevin Owens, hey, man, I know we are way past apologies. All things considered, everything that had went down and everything. But, hey, what's past is past. Can't do anything to change it. And the only thing we can do now is just go forward and everything. And look, man, this stuff that's been going on with the bloodline, I think that if anything, we should team up, and once and for all, we should destroy the bloodline. It's the right thing to do and everything. Well, Owens, he chomps back and he talks about how, well, wait a minute here, dog. Let's rewind it back. When there was the beatdown that was going on at the Royal Rumble, Sami, you just sat there. You didn't do anything. Like, what the hell? And you know what, man, for what it's worth, and I got to give WWE credit for this. They try to explain why Sami Zayn got help finally from Kevin Owens at Elimination Chamber. Because that was pretty comical when you think about it. No. We're not going to let it be a case where Kevin Owens comes out when he sees Jimmy Uso interfering. No. That's no. What about when Jey Uso? No. We're going to have Kevin Owens come out after the match is over and done with. And because God damn it, Kevin's just pretty much had enough at this point. He's mad and he's not gonna take it anymore. Okay. I just thought that was so comical, but they had Kevin Owens try to explain his way out of it, essentially, by saying, you know what, you might have just stood there and watched when it came to those times I was dealing with Roman in the bloodline. It is what it is, but you know what, I have a heart. There was just no way I was going to let your wife and kids experience what I had pretty much went through, the heartache, you know, the pain, the sorrow I went through. And he told Sammy, he said, you know what, I've been done with you pretty much since November. And you know what, if you need help in taking down the bloodline, one thing's for certain, you can definitely call upon and rely on your good old friend, Jey Uso, as he just dropped the mic, rolled the hell out. This reunion is definitely coming. It reminds me so much, shades of when ultimately Triple H and Shawn Michaels, they finally reformed Degeneration X. It was just the two of them, but yeah, some nice good moments, and it's kind of giving me those vibes. Now look, I'm not saying Sammy and Kevin, but if you remember the arc, everything, the circumstances, so give this about 3 weeks. So basically 3 Raw episodes, 3 more Raw episodes on top of what you just got this week. So give it 3 more and they will definitely reform. They'll definitely reform. So now look at the seeds that has essentially been planted here. That creates a really great SmackDown. What's going to happen with Sami Zayn going into this week's SmackDown? Is Sami gonna... I mean, just really stop and think about that now. Really stop and think about that. Sami, no way, no how is Sami Zayn going to be able to convince Jey Uso to step to the side and have nothing to do with what's going on with the tag team titles. There's just no way. No way, no how. I can't wait to see how all that is gonna pan itself out, because that's looking very murky right now. And the writer in me, the writer in me is just looking at that going, how are you gonna navigate these waters right here? I am most curious. Sure, you could have Jey Uso easily say, you know what, the bloodline is done. Or, hey, far as I'm concerned, Sammy, I don't have anything else to do with Roman Reigns and all that at this point. But if you're going to be coming after these tag team titles, dog, it's a fight that you're definitely going to get. Right? I can't wait to see how they pan that out. Meanwhile, brilliantly, WWE, another chef's kiss right here. Because you go into a picture-in-picture break. Just when you think, okay, this Sami Zayn segment, we're done. Okay, cool. And as right on cue, you go into a picture-in-picture break. Baron Corbin attacks Sami from behind. And during the whole picture-in-picture break, he's just beating his ass down. Finally, we come back, and Corbin is just talking a big old hot mess, fuming over getting interrupted by Sami Zayn hijacking his interview spot from the week prior. Nice continuation right here. Great continuation. Okay, so it's all making sense. The continuity. Love it, love it, love it. And I love the fact that, okay, well, I'm going to change the channel. I'm just going to see what else is on. No. Look at what we're doing with your beloved Sami Zayn. Well, now you got to stick around. You got to see how this pans out. Great touch by WWE. All involved. Great touch. Leads to Adam Pearce trying to check up on Sami. Make sure he's in the right bearings and all that. Baron Corbin continuing to talk hot trash. Adam Pearce finally just, you want him? Go ahead. You want a match? Go ahead. Match becomes official. Sami taking on Baron. The right kind of match that Sami needed, coming from out of Elimination Chamber and everything. Everything worked right here. This was good. This was good. And Corbin is still that guy that the majority of the WWE fans want to see man, we don't like this guy. Can somebody beat his ass up already? Can we just mop the floor with him already? And so you got two birds and one stone with this one. You got Sammy continuing to get him over as a megastar that he is right now, while also at the same time, right, really sticking it to Corbin. So some nice, good stuff that you had right there. Really, really good stuff. We get a sit-down interview with Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio. Rhea isn't focusing anymore on Beth Phoenix because her mind is laser focused right now. She just has one agenda only, and that is on Charlotte Flair and those titles. That's what it's all about right now, or that title that Charlotte Flair is holding on to right now. So that's what's eating her up. She also talked about how she'll be at SmackDown this week to personally get in the face of Charlotte Flair. Dominic Mysterio saying he's going to be tagging along because he wants to see his dad slap my bitch up. Cue that song up, please. Mustafa Ali getting an upset win over Dolph Ziggler. About a 2-minute match. Pretty stunned to see that. Honestly, could give two craps not. Moving along, Maurice giving Miz an envelope that had something inside that he's apparently extremely happy about. According to my respected sources, what was inside that letter was the launch date for when finally AEW's Fight Forever video game will be coming out. Miz, Curious Minds, wants to know when that game is coming out. No, seriously, we don't know what the hell is in that letter, but he is just over the moon and back. What's in that letter? What was in it? What's the good news? He saved a bunch of money on his car insurance by switching to Geico. Maurice is pregnant yet again. Miz and Mrs. got picked up for another season. Seriously, this is another one of those cases where I don't know. I'm not sure I want to know, but it is what it is. Cody Rhodes, Paul Heyman having another promo showdown. Not as good as what they did 2 weeks ago at this point. And not because Paul Heyman was not present, but basically appeared via Titantron. That's not why. It just wasn't really into it like that. I watched it because I knew I was watching two of the absolute best go at it on the microphone. But this felt a little bit flat. It felt very forced. This felt unneeded. It felt unneeded. And honestly, we would have been just fine. I get it. It's officially the road to WrestleMania now, as the finish line is near, and we gotta push this to the forefront, right? And it's been doing so well with Cody in his respected segments. But, now some interesting notes. Once again, Paul Heyman reiterating to Cody Rhodes he's not going to be able to beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, but says, okay, you know what? Let's do some hypothetical thinking for a hot minute. Cody, let's say you do somehow pull off the impossible, you win the titles. I mean, look at the next challenge that you're going to have right before your very eyes, which is, at minimum, can you do at least 200 days defending the titles? Can you do about 50 or more so days at various charitable events? Can you do about 30 days of promoting events and holding meetings even at your home on your days off? And these were the questions that Paul Heyman asked, and he said that, as Dustin Rhodes said, even when Dusty Rhodes was at home, he wasn't at home. A lot of mentioning of Dusty Rhodes these past couple of weeks. I've loved it too, by the way. And this leads Paul Heyman to asking, is that what Cody wants to do to his respected family? And that Heyman isn't going to say something vile like Roman Reigns will keep Cody's wife warm because Reigns is a happily married man. But Heyman, he's not. So we got a nice little dig there where Cody is basically saying, hey, I'll take care of that chocolate sundae of yours, taking care of your kid. Okay. So look, you gotta have Brandy Rhodes make an appearance at this point. Seriously, I would love to see Brandy Rhodes pop up, talk some mad trash to Paul Heyman, and bitch slap the hell out of him. Just knock the freaking facial hair off his face. Okay, that's how hard I need for her to smack him. So, you know, you did have some nice little zingers in there, but, you know, it just, in comparison to 2 weeks ago, it was definitely flat. It was definitely flat. Good, but a little flat. Asuka picking up a W over Nikki Cross. Average match, you know, 9 minutes and change. Look, this is what you want to do with Asuka. You want to build her up, give her some W's as she's making her way to WrestleMania to take on Bianca for the title and everything. But yeah, I got nothing else for you on this one, because this one, it was what it was with this one. Now, remember what I said going back to the Elimination Chamber post show? I said something along the lines of, unless there is some type of a hiccup between now and WrestleMania, as far as Asuka, is she officially a lock? Will she make it to WrestleMania to face Bianca Belair for the championship? Or is there going to be some type of shenanigans involved and we're going to get a new opponent for Bianca? Well, after this match was all said and done, Carmella was backstage and she was being interviewed. She said something along the lines of, you know, she's not quite thinking about her road to WrestleMania, but she is thinking about Asuka. So she's going to make WrestleMania a lot easier for Bianca Belair. So kind of weird right here. I know, right? Let me say that again, and I made sure I jotted this down in my notes here. Carmella said she isn't thinking about her road to WrestleMania, but she is thinking about Asuka. So she's going to make WrestleMania a lot easier for Bianca Belair. So you read into that, you know, my interpretation of that was, okay, this obviously stems from the women's Elimination Chamber match to determine a number one contender, and right? So you're thinking about how, hey, Carmella and Asuka, they pretty much were like the last two going at it and all that. So could Carmella, is this her way of essentially saying, nah, what I'm going to do going forward, I'm going to do everything in my power humanly possible to beat the holy living crap out of Asuka. I'm going to try to see that Asuka doesn't make it to WrestleMania, since I'm not going to be able to punch in a ticket at WrestleMania. That was my interpretation of that. But at the same time, if you were to do such bodily harm to Asuka, would that mean by default Asuka would get that position and she'd be the one to take on Bianca at WrestleMania? Curious minds want to know. Miz, Seth Rollins. Rollins with the victory, 11 minutes and change. I mean, this was almost like literally deja vu from what you saw in the previous match, only this time it was just with some guys. That's how I pretty much had looked at this match and everything. Rollins, Logan Paul, I mean, this match has pretty much been announced, even though it hasn't officially been announced. So we know that this is coming and everything, right? So as I could have done without it. I could have done without this, but it is what it is. Going back to Carmella, Adam Pearce decided he's going to give Carmella another chance against Asuka next week, Chelsea Green ended up giving Pierce a call, complaining about the travel arrangements. Apparently, she got sent to the wrong city and state. And I like how Adam Pierce pretty much had got off the phone talking about bullshit static and all that. Ding Dong Hello segment with Damage Control that gets interrupted by Becky Lynch and Lita. They laid a challenge out for Damage Control's Io Sky and Dakota Kai to put up the tag team titles in a match at WrestleMania. It's pretty much ended on a cliffhanger. The girls are wondering if Damage Control is scared, all right, for all the crap that they've been talking about, as far as them being the best tag team for the past 100-something days. Put your money where your mouth is. So it pretty much ended on a cliffhanger. You know, Damage Control looking not quite sure that they're going to accept this challenge. Speaking of challenges, very weird bipolar booking from WWE that I really need help in it being explained to me, because I'm trying to make sense out of it. I'm not able to make sense out of it whatsoever. So let me see if I got this straight. So we get a segment with MVP and Omos, where MVP is not a fan of the fact that Brock Lesnar had to cheat because he felt that hurt lock, he was going to tap out or pass out. Lashley was about to get the win, so he pretty much took the coward's way out as far as MVP is concerned. To that, MVP wants for Brock Lesnar to try that on his boy Omos, as Omos is putting out a challenge to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I hear this announcement, and then later on in the night, we see Elias, who puts out a challenge, trying to see who's up to facing him one-on-one in a match right there on the spot. Later on in the night there, Bobby Lashley comes out, pretty much destroys his ass, grabs a microphone afterwards, and you're going, okay, well, surely Lashley is going to clear the air here, and he's going to say something along the lines of, MVP, with all due respect, if anybody's getting a shot at Brock Lesnar next, it's definitely going to be my black ass. No announcement like that whatsoever. Just pretty much, you get in my way, you're going to get hurt. That was Lashley's message. And I was expecting at least for there to be some type of a segment where Lashley crossed paths with MVP and saying, yo, thanks, dog, but no, this dude's mine. I want him. And it was interesting because I said immediately after all this went down, I said, there's no way, no how. No way, no how that Omos and Brock Lesnar are going to be locking it up at WrestleMania. And to add even more fuel to the fire, when they were doing the rundown for key matches that was going to be coming up for next week's Monday Night Raw, they tried to do the graphic for Omos and MVP, and basically, okay, so will the challenge officially be accepted by Brock Lesnar? And Corey Graves, he says something along the lines of, wait a minute, why do we even have these graphics? Like, how do we even know that this is going to be official? Are we even sure that this is even going to happen? Like, seriously. So the fact that they were kind of egging on like that, that lets you know that, nah, something is brewing here. This has to be one of those to be continued type of. But, you know, probably what was the most alarming about this whole sequence involving Lashley, Lesnar, is the fact that we didn't get a Brock Lesnar has been suspended and fined for what he did to that WWE official. I mean, typically that's what usually happens and all that, but not this go round. Not this go round. So I thought that was just a very telling tale in itself. You know, it can almost feed into that narrative and storyline that Bobby Lashley put out there about Brock Lesnar. If you remember some weeks back where he said, hey, you're their golden goose. They always roll out the red carpet for you, don't they, Brock, right? So you can almost kind of make that argument. Because if you really stop and think about it, look at the last time that Lashley went off, you know, on a official and all that. He had got suspended indefinitely. And remember, it was MVP that actually had pulled some strings and was able to get that restriction lifted if you guys recall. So, you know, if you want to talk about a little bit of unfairness going on there in WWE, well, if you want to talk about a little bit of unfairness going on there in WWE, you can definitely go in that direction. You could definitely go in that direction. So, some interesting, just something to have in the back of your mind there as you see how this is going to continue to play itself out. Okay. Other than that, you know, that pretty much was Raw. Chad Gable losing to Bronson Reed, you know, pretty much a squash match. Yeah, that pretty much was it. You know, decent episode, all said and done. It definitely made you feel as though, for all intents and purposes, you know, we're here. It's now officially Wrestlemania mode and everything, but you know, you're starting to get an idea of what matches is going to materialize and everything, especially after that Wrestlemania vignette that they had showed. There was a new video package that they showed, and you pretty much were told who was going to be facing who, but they tried to throw you off a little bit when they had Undertaker in there. Who else? I think Steve Austin might have been in there too. So it kind of makes you wondering if, okay, are we really going to see Steve Austin and Undertaker do something at WrestleMania, or, you know, what exactly is going on here? You know, kind of one of those type of deals. But yeah, so episode. Let's see what you guys had to say about WWE Raw as I get ready to pull up the polling results. By the way, if you guys been enjoying yourself so far, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, smash it. We are just a couple of heads away from hitting 12,300 subs on the YouTube channel. Hit that bell notification so you always know about new content coming your way. I am going to see what is going on via Facebook. See if we got some new polling results here on Facebook. Give me a second here. I'm still scrolling. We got a tie right now. I see 50% of you are staying in the middle, while the other half of you are giving this week's Raw a thumbs up. Appreciate you guys that had cast your vote via Facebook. And these polls will stay open until Tuesday night, February 21st, 2023. Let's say 11 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, let's see what you guys are saying via Twitter at the RCWR show. I see a lot more of you people are really picking up the steam on Twitter with that post I put out about Tony Khan and Ariel there. Appreciate that. 11% of you are saying thumbs down for Monday Night Raw, while 33% of you are giving it a thumbs up. Lead dog right now, 55% of you voted staying in the middle. 55% staying in the middle. All right, meanwhile, let's go to YouTube and let's look at the communities tab. Let's see what you guys are saying there. %20 of you are giving Raw a thumbs down, while we have a tie at 40% for thumbs up and staying in the middle. So now that you guys have heard the polling results, as always, you're more than welcome to cast your vote. No, you do not need to vote on all three polls on the various platforms. Just pick one and go for it. Appreciate you representing as always. Yep. All right, so some other wrestling news that we can definitely get into here. I know that New Japan Pro Wrestling, they had their Battle in the Valley pay-per-view event where Mercedes Moné, she defeated Kairi Sane to become the new IWGP Women's Champion and all that. And it's funny because you have, you know, a decent amount of folks that are on social media that are going, you know, who cares? Oh, that's so laughable. You know, whatever.
I don't have any information about that.
The hell? Okay, somehow Google thinks I was talking to her, but I actually wasn't. Eavesdropping, I tell you, just the eavesdropping that's going on with that. But yeah, Mercedes Moné is the new IWGP Women's Champion, and you can't help but wonder, as New Japan Pro Wrestling and Impact Wrestling, they successfully were able to sell out their joint pay-per-view event that's going to be going down. I believe it's in March. If you guys can bear with me a second. Yeah, it's going to be on March 31st. They're doing a Impact versus New Japan Pro Wrestling Multiverse United show on March 31st. Tickets for that event has been sold out. It was officially announced today, or Monday, that tickets for the event sold out. And so congrats to Impact Wrestling for that. Sincerely, congrats to Impact Wrestling for that. So for those of you not going to be able to get a ticket, you could try eBay, a couple other places, but if you're not going to have any luck, then your next bet is to lock in Fight TV. They will be streaming that pay-per-view event. I definitely will be checking it out, and I'll tell you the reason why. And now is probably a good time for you guys to start watching Impact Wrestling. I'm going to explain why just briefly. Because Mercedes Moné, she did put out a couple of cryptic tweets, and normally when she's kind of giving you a little bit of a prelude of what's to come, what's going to materialize, you know, she usually does like these one-shot images or whatever, or two-shot image comparison or whatever. And one of the images that she had shared as she was going into the Battle in the Valley event this past weekend was an image of current Knockouts champion Mickie James, which gave you a strong suggestion that, okay, maybe this is going to be the next opponent. You know, pretty much with what she did with Kari, you know, almost in similar fashion, if not identical fashion. So, you know, that's going to be a really damn good card, I personally feel. But hey, quick results there from the Battle in the Valley. Alex Coughlin defeated JR Kratos. Pre-show match. David Finlay defeated Bobby Fish. That was your second pre-show. Meanwhile, for the 8-man tag team match, Kushida, Volador Jr., Kevin Knight, and the DKC defeated Mascara Dorada, Josh Alexander, Adrian Quest, and Rocky Romero. Meanwhile, Kenta defeated Fred Rosser. That was a singles match for the Strong Openweight Championship. So Kenta is the new Strong Openweight Champion. Meanwhile, the Motor City Machine Guns defeated West Coast Wrecking Crew. It was a tag match for the Strong Openweight Tag Team title. So Motor City Machine Guns retaining successfully. While Eddie Kingston defeated Jay White. Remember, this was the Loser Leaves New Japan Pro Wrestling match. If Kingston lost, he would have needed White's permission to continue to compete in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, you know, you would like to believe that, well, no, Jay White, he's just going to pop up in AEW. If that was going to be the case, then you would never do this whole Loser Leaves New Japan Pro Wrestling. You would never do that because of the working relationship that AEW continues to have with New Japan, right? I mean, you could potentially try to, right? Well, maybe we could do something with him in AEW, just have him on the RH shows, or have him on AEW just whenever New Japan comes around. We just don't have him do, potentially. But look, whether or not Jay White is going to be doing something with WWE, I really don't know. I really don't know. It's just, anything is up in the air right now. Anything can and will happen. Just have to wait and see. Tom Lawler defeated Homicide by submission in a Filthy Rules fight. Zack Sabre Jr. retained his New Japan World Television Championship against Clark Connors. I already told you about Mercedes Moné. Okada retained his IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Hiroshi Tanahashi. Love that fucking dude, man. Tanahashi, I want to see him do more stuff in the USA so bad, working with more USA promotions so bad. I want to see this dude just tearing it up, man. I want to see him do more stuff in AEW, definitely in WWE. I want to see him do a nice little run, man. But you guys have to forgive me for continuing to dream the dream there, because it probably is not going to happen, but I can dream, right? Just allow a brother to dream a little bit longer. So this week's AEW Dark Elevation is as follows. Lucha Brothers taking on Tony Nese and Ari Daivari. Leva Bates, Madison Rayne, and Willow Nightingale are joining forces to take on Nyla Rose, Marina Shafir, and Emi Sakura. Meanwhile, Lee Moriarty and Big Bill take on Zach Zila. Why does that sound like Bob Vila? And Warren Johnson. Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, Ethan Page, Butcher, Blade take on Dark Order and Best Friends. Athena, now there's somebody we have not seen in a good minute. She was building up some serious steam and then disappeared. She's in action against Evelyn Carter. And Fuego del Sol versus Juice Robinson. If you were looking for Powerhouse Hobbs, if you miss Powerhouse Hobbs, he's back in action. He'll be taking on Sal Muscat. Sal Muscat. That's your card for this week's AEW Dark Elevation. Apparently, AEW has tried to file trademark for some new show, AEW Collision, but they had like a misspelling, I think, so it's Collision or some stupid crap like that. Apparently this is supposed to be a new wrestling show. I hear that, I cringe, and yeah, I'll comment a lot more about that on the Wednesday show, since we're kind of almost getting ready to wrap up. But I'll definitely comment a lot more about that on the Wednesday show, as well as more information that came about from the AEW Dynamite game there and all that, because there's a lot more information that came out that we didn't get into in regards to the game. Now, as far as Dynamite goes, the card for this week's Dynamite, give me a second here. I'm trying to see if I can hook you guys up real quick here. I thought I had wrote that down, but I did not. Here we go. I did write it down. Here we go. All right, so your card for this Wednesday's AEW Dynamite. AEW All-Atlantic Championship match, Orange Cassidy taking on Wheeler Yuta. A Revolution Tag Team Battle Royale. Teams for that's to be announced. Meanwhile, John Moxley will be taking on Evil Uno. Okay? The Acclaimed going up against Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. Saraya takes on the beautiful, the lovely Sky Blue. While Christian Cage is in the house, he'll be chatting it up with Tony Khan, and apparently Tony Khan has a big announcement. I wonder if that has to do with the new AEW video game, as far as an official release date goes, or if it has to do with that AEW Collision show. I have to wait and see what's going on with that, but to be continued on that one. Don't forget, AEW Rampage is back to its regular scheduled day and time, Friday, 10 p.m. I know 7 p.m. had threw a lot of you guys off, okay? So I feel you guys when it comes to that, too. I definitely feel you guys. For you old school wrestling fans, I want to hook you up with this, and then we'll end it on a positive tip as far as some very good news goes. For you old school wrestling fans, a press release was put out for the new autobiography on Adrian Adonis. And it reads as follows, basically. It's first ever book about adorable Adrian Adonis on sale next month. It's a definitive look at the life and tragic death of one of America's most colorful characters. The first ever biography of former WWF and AWA Tag Champion Adorable Adrian Adonis will be published next month. Flowers for Adrian, The Life and Death of Adrian Adonis, will be available on Amazon in ebook and paperback format Thursday, March 22nd. Flowers for Adrian, The Life and Death of Adrian Adonis is a detailed and engaging look at the life, death, and legacy of professional wrestler Keith Frankie, who competed, hopefully I'm pronouncing that last name right, it's either Keith Frank or Frankie, who competed as gorgeous Keith Franks and adorable Adrian Adonis during the 1970s and 1980s before his untimely death in 1988. This biography, the first of its kind, takes readers from Frankie's start in life as an orphan to achieving his childhood dream of becoming a pro wrestler. The tale plays out across the vibrant background of wrestling's territories, where Adonis learned his trade the old-fashioned way in California, Amarillo, Portland, and elsewhere. One half of the pioneering East-West connection with future governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, Adonis headlined Madison Square Garden before being front and center during the WWF's international expansion. What could possibly go wrong? Through meticulous research and interviews with a range of sources, readers will learn the story of Adonis's life and career and much more, including the tale of the original Adrian Adonis dating back over 100 years, the true story of his infamous Amarillo shoot fight, recounted for the first time by Terry Daniels, the intriguing plans Adonis had for a career away from the ring. And this book, it comes with contributions from Adonis's friends, family, and former colleagues such as Magnificent Don Morocco, Tully Blanchard, Jerry Briscoe, and more. So once again, that is going to be on sale Amazon US, Amazon UK. That will be on March the 23rd, Thursday, March 23rd. It will be available. I will definitely be checking that out. I'll try to see if maybe I might be able to get a hold of a early advance copy. If I am, I will definitely circle back with you guys, give you all my first impressions of it and everything. So again, you old school wrestling fans, definitely mark that down, check that out. So that would actually, wouldn't that technically be the first wrestling book of 2023? Unless there's something I'm missing, that should be officially the first book of I know somebody had called themselves trying to do a story on the life and career of Jay Briscoe, where basically what they did was they pretty much had just took like a bunch of articles and stuff from various websites, and they had pretty much put it in a ebook format, so it's pretty much all in one page, one page, not one page, but basically it was just in an ebook format, taking all the articles from various sites and just ba-doop, and that pretty much was it. So your guess is as good as mine. Shout out to Ramit in regards to the news on Kenny Omega, pure speculation. I'll gladly get into that on Wednesday, since we're more AEW and we kind of go a little bit more indie talk on the Wednesday show. So I'll forward what you just said to the show on Wednesday. On a positive note, we can end the show on this high. Well, one low, but we're gonna end on a high note. Of course, if you are a true wrestling fan, if you are a wrestling fan that appreciates wrestling stories and all that from yesteryear, then you definitely have found the passing of comedian and actor Richard Belzer. You definitely took that pretty hard. And Richard Belzer, his story in itself, it's a phenomenal one when you really stop and think about it, because here's a man that had pretty much already decided okay, I have a good idea what I want to do with my life, what I want to do career-wise. And, it wasn't until really he was going through his first divorce did he decide, okay, you know what, I need to reevaluate. Let me just reassess, figure out what it is I want to do in life, where exactly I'm trying to go and everything. And, one of the first things that he started looking into was doing some comedy work. Believe it or not, he began doing stand-up comedy, and his comedy was catching on so well that eventually he became friends with Lorne Michaels, who's the co-creator, executive producer of Saturday Night Live, right down to the point back in the day, the vintage years of Saturday Night Live. He actually was the warm-up comedic, and basically what he would do before the official start of Saturday Night Live would be underway with the main cast, he basically would talk to the crowd before the show, and he'd get them, nice and ready, okay? And so just one thing leads into another, and eventually he started having the little bit parts here and there in movies. Of course, if you've seen Al Pacino in Scarface so many times like I have, you definitely know about him in the white suit and the black tie, and he's doing these, sounds like really corny ass jokes and everything, but anybody that ever took the time out to watch an episode of Law and Order SVU or Homicide Life on the Streets, which was filmed out here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, right up in Baltimore, and that whole series based off of true stories that had happened in Baltimore. There was a beat writer that was always writing about all these messed up crimes that was happening in Baltimore. Homicide Life on the Street started off as just something that you read about in the newspaper, and then eventually converted over into a book, and then turned into a television show and all of that. Belzer's Detective Munch character, a lot of people forget this, the Munch character originated from Homicide Life on the Streets. And yeah, you had the crossover back in the day when Homicide, Law and Order, they did their thing and everything. And once Homicide was pretty much coming to an end, Dick Wolf, producer, creator of the Law and Order, all the franchises there, and Law and Order, he really had liked the John Munch character and wanted to try to do everything in his power to have that character somehow carry over to his new series, which was Law and Order SVU. And arrangements were made, and the rest is pretty much history. And, it's so, when you really stop and think about it, this John Munch character, this was a character that, he had played, my God. I mean, we're talking about from 93 until 2016. That's when officially he retired the character and all of that. So as far as how the man had passed away, it's not known right now. Apparently there was some type of respiratory issues, but the man went out in style. His best friend pretty much was with him time of his death and everything. And the last thing that Richard Belzer said to his friend, "Fuck you, motherfucker." That's how he went out. You're like, that would be some Richard Belzer. Yeah, I can see him legit saying some stuff like that. And this definitely ties back to wrestling, because again, if you're a wrestling fan, wrestling historian, then you know about the infamous show that Richard Belzer had hosted back in the 80s. I can't remember the name of it right now. It escapes me. You got to forgive me. But he had Mr. T and the immortal Hulk Hogan that was on his show. And Richard Belzer was going on and on and on about wrestling. It's fake, right? Like, come on, you can peel the curtain back. I mean, come on, you know? I mean, I'm an actor. Come on, it's fake, right? And Hulk Hogan, you know, no, brother, it's not fake at all. Let me demonstrate. And so he ended up, the Hulkster, he ended up putting Richard Belzer in a front lock headlock. And Belzer passed out within seconds. You could see the clip on Facebook. I had shared it over the weekend as soon as I found out about his death, because that was just one of the first things that I had thought about was that clip. And I ended up sharing it on the Facebook page. And Richard Belzer just, when Hogan lets him go, Belzer just drops like a freaking ton of bricks, yo. Okay? Like a ton of freaking bricks. And, you know, you're like, wow. Richard Belzer was seriously injured in that spot. And he legit, not a rib, guys, not a rib. He legit sued WWE and the Hulkster. And apparently they settled. You know, he ended up getting like $400,000. He pretty much had used that money to purchase, either purchase and do additional renovations or just outright purchase. It's a house in France. That much I do remember. It's a house in France. So true fun story right there. You know, this wasn't no Andy Kaufman, you know, legit passed the hell out from the immortal Hulk Hogan. You know, really a trailblazer in his own respected right. Definitely a pioneer as far as his style of comedy goes and everything. You know, I'm sure a lot of you guys had saw all the touching tributes that came, you know, the way of that guy, and rightfully deserved. Definitely rightfully deserved. You know, just living out here in DC, I remember I would come across so many extras, and from time to time I would actually come across key stars from Homicide: Life on the Streets, and whenever the name of Richard Belzer was brought up and everything, I always heard nothing but the kindest, sweetest things about Richard Belzer. And then even, believe it or not, the main villain that was on there for a good minute, Luther Mahoney, and he went on to have a little small part in Eddie Murphy's The Nutty Professor. I heard the nicest things about him as well, right? Which may shock some people, because, you know, some people are like, but he just seems like he would really be some form of a dick in real life. Like, no, he was actually a sweetheart as well in real life. And then I said to you guys, you know, lighter note, right? On a lighter note, we got an update in regards to Jay Briscoe's family. Remember, we heard about that whole unfortunate car accident and just everybody that was involved and all that. Well, it looks like, you know, everybody is now home. I believe the youngest daughter, I believe her name is Gracie. She's still in a wheelchair. Looks like she's got some pins, screws, you know, around her ankle, but, you know, she's in a wheelchair. And Jay Briscoe's wife had shared an image with them, all of them, and saying something along the lines of, finally got all my babies home. And, you know, it was so nice to see them try to smile in the photograph there, although one of them could not bring up a smile. I think you guys know exactly who I'm talking about. One of them could not bring up a smile. But those kids, man, those kids, that whole family, wife included, they need some extra TLC for what they have gone through and the difficult journey that is ahead for them. Definitely some counseling they're going to be needing for the next little bit as well, because that is going to be a very difficult transition. You know, I wish that in the way in which I found out my uncle had passed away, the brief year and a half, 2 years that I was living out in California with my mom, and, you know, we were staying with my grandmother and everything, and uncles, you know, to be 10 going on 11, and your first exposure to death, I don't want to go too deep in, but it stayed with me for such a long time. And and he was killed in a drive-by shooting. That much I will say. He was killed in a drive-by shooting. Profound impact. I wasn't right for many years. And Lord only knows if I would have had some type of counseling, if that might have helped me better, in coping and communicating. And because I went through serious withdrawal for many years when all that went down and everything. Those kids, the sooner that they can start having that accessibility to a therapist, the better. It's going to do them a lot of positive good in the long haul. You guys just wait and see. So quick programming notes. I'll be back with you guys on the air this Wednesday. That's going to be February the 22nd, 2023. 10:05 p.m. Eastern after WWE. Oh, after WWE. My bad, guys. After AEW goes off the air. So we'll have that. And then, like I said at the top of the show, I think if I can, I'll put it out for you guys on Tuesday. But the worst case scenario, I'll have that interview with Wild Women of Wrestling's own Foxxy Fierce. That'll be made available for you guys. If not Tuesday night, definitely early Wednesday afternoon. I definitely am looking to get that out ASAP because it was a really fun conversation that I had with her, and I know you guys are definitely going to be enjoying it, okay? So we'll have that for you guys. I've got to sit down and check out the latest episodes of Women of Wrestling. I am 2 episodes behind right now, so you know how I've been doing it. If you've noticed the pattern, I've been combining the talk of 2 episodes in 1 episode. So if I can sit down between now and tomorrow night, get that out for you guys as well, we'll definitely pump that out as well. So you guys are getting a bunch of solid content, so definitely keep it locked right here. You're going to get your hookup. Meanwhile, as I always like to say, be kind, rewind, check out previous episodes you might have missed on demand and on the downloads. If you're a wrestling fan like me and everybody else that usually tunes in, interact with one another, you like all things wrestling, you're not all about taking shots at one wrestling company, trying to favor another wrestling company. You just honestly, at your core, you're just a wrestling fan that just loves to talk of wrestling, but you also love stuff in between. You definitely need to keep it right here. We do our best to have it be as really unbiased as possible. Look at everything from so many angles. You've been checking out the show for a long time. You know how we're about. You know what we're about. We ain't about the negativity, right? We give the constructive criticism, feedback, when it's warranted, when it needs to be given, and all that. But, so much ugliness I see going on in the wrestling community these days. It's just sad, especially when we see people that's just, well, this sucks and this is better. And my whole thing is, it's like this. I'll leave you with this. Okay, legit, real life. I'm not a fan of Nickelback. So if I'm not a fan of Nickelback, why would I go to a Nickelback stream and bash the hell out of that? You understand what I'm saying? If I'm not a Nickelback fan, why would I go on a live stream in the chat and they're talking about Nickelback and all I want to do is talk about Metallica? Like, I don't try to understand, because to understand would be a way of understanding the madness, and I don't want to understand, because that would just go down a completely different rabbit hole I personally am not interested in going down, right? So yeah, no thanks. Appreciate the love as always, especially from you guys that's been supporting the show on demand and on the downloads. Love it as always. Get at me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Use the keywords The RCWR Show. Check out my work featured at 401mania.com. I'm actually going to try to see if this week too I can get the full in-depth review up of my experience in checking out Ant-Man what is it, Quantum Mania, whatever the hell they're calling that. I'm just gonna call it Ant-Man 3. Just Ant-Man 3. It's an easy way for me to remember that. But yeah. All right, y'all. Be safe and be kind to one another, and I will see you guys next go round. Y'all take care.